And let's once again return to the fertile mind of Congressman Adam Schiff, Democrat from Area 51, ranking Democrat on House Intel Committee. When one conspiracy fails to materialize, is punctured by the facts, you just spin a new one. That's what Adam Schiff was doing this weekend after the Carter Page FISA doc dump.
Do you believe he's compromised by Vladimir Putin?
Well, I certainly think he's acting like someone who's compromised, and it may very well be that he is compromised, or it may very well be that he believes that he's compromised, that the Russians have information on him. We were not permitted to look into one of the allegations that was most serious to me, and that is, were the Russians laundering money through the Trump Organization? The Republicans wouldn't allow us to go near that. I hope that Bob Mueller's investigating it because, again, if that's the leverage the Russians are using, it would not only explain the president's behavior, but it would help protect the country by knowing that, in fact, our president was compromised.
Indeed, yes. There are two choices, that he is compromised or that he believes he's compromised. Those are the only two choices available. Also, we haven't had a chance to look into money laundering, drug trafficking, human trafficking, the Kennedy assassination, the Lindbergh baby kidnapping. All of these things House Republicans prevented us from looking into, so Adam Schiff hopes Bob Mueller and his team will look into. I don't know about you, but I'm finding it increasingly difficult to distinguish former intelligence agency heads, senior diplomats, members of Congress from guys wandering the streets with sandwich boards detailing the coming apocalypse. So perhaps our next guest and friend, Andrew Klavan, Hollywood screenwriter, can assist us with this. Andrew, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, it's great to be here, guys. Thanks.
So what about that? We've got the Cohen tape this weekend. We've got, it's being characterized. We haven't actually heard it. We've got the Carter Page doc dump. Carter Page, who the intelligence agencies, FBI, DOJ, said was essentially a Russian agent acting criminally. 2 years later, no charges filed. And in response, we get more yarns from Adam Schiff.
Adam Schiff is disgraceful. Adam Schiff is as close as we have to Joe McCarthy, the guy who used to wave closed envelopes in the air and say, I have here the names of, officials that are members of the Communist Party, and never open the envelope, never show anybody the proof. Schiff has been implying that they have all this evidence of Russian collusion between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. He's been implying it for months and months, for years now. And he has never produced a single ounce of evidence to support that claim. Trey Gowdy over the weekend said if there were any evidence, Adam Schiff would have leaked it by now.
Yes.
So we can pretty well assume that everything he's saying is just geared. It's a lie. He's lying, and I think that to do that is disgraceful. I think I have issues with Donald Trump's approach to Vladimir Putin. But what Putin wants, Putin doesn't care who's president of the United States. Why should he care who's president of the United States? What he cares about is making sure that we are at each other's throats. He cares about gumming up the legislative machinery. Who is doing that more, Donald Trump or Democrats and media claiming that Donald Trump is a Russian spy on the cover of New York Magazine, or claiming that he's somehow compromised and being blackmailed without any evidence whatsoever? I mean, that stuff must make Putin just laugh and laugh, That's the stuff that Putin wants. He doesn't care about, Donald Trump is treating Putin pretty tough. He's being pretty tough on Russia, even though the things he says sometimes might not make any sense in that context, but he's armed the Ukrainian rebels. He's thrown Russians out of the country. He's closed their consulates. He's been much tougher than Barack Obama or George W. Bush ever were. But he does say things that sound kind of like me and Putin are pals. But the things that the Democrats are saying, this stuff that Trump is guilty of treason, that he's compromised, that he's laundering money, that's the stuff Putin loves. And I just think it's utterly disgraceful. All the Democrats have to do at this point is not be crazy, and they can't even manage that.
No, I agree that President Trump has been tough on Putin, but after that press conference, I mean, he seemed just to be, kissing his butt, so to speak. You didn't feel like that at all?
No, I did. I felt not quite that strongly, but I thought his press conference was a typical Trumpian faux pas. I thought it was a mistake in that he treats he treats Putin like a gangster he can get along with. And you know the way Trump talks. He'll say Kim Jong-un is a talented leader, this guy who's just essentially a savage in a uniform, because he thinks that if he flatters them, he can then go in and be tough in negotiations and get what he wants. And he treats Putin like that. But Putin is not Kim Jong-un. Putin is a very, very sophisticated, he's a guy who wants an expansionist Russia with him as the czar. That's what he wants. And so you can't really deal with him on the same level as a Kim Jong-un. This is an ex-KGB agent. Every word he says is calculated for an effect. Everything he says is a lie. So I think Trump made a faux pas. But think back about Obama saying to Dmitry Medvedev that go back and tell Vlad that I'll be more flexible about our European defenses after the next election. And then after the election, actually killing our European defenses. You know, that was truly a bad thing to do. And I remember at the time conservative commentators saying to me personally, Barack Obama just committed treason. And me saying, that's not treason. That's just a mistake in how you deal with a gangster like this. And I feel the same way about Donald Trump. I think he is being a little too naive about Vladimir Putin, the same way that Obama was, the same way that George W. Bush was. It doesn't mean he has to go to war with him, but it does mean that he needs a little bit of a tougher approach, even when he speaks. But so what? So he made a faux pas. He made a mistake. You can scold him for that and attack him and criticize him for that. But do you accuse him of treason? Do you accuse him of being a Russian agent? I mean, that's absurd. And I just think the level, coming from the party that supported Obama's trip to Cuba, while Cuba was in the midst of destabilizing Venezuela and Nicaragua, and the party that cheered when Obama made a deal with Iran, the greatest sponsor of terrorism in the world, it's just fake and absurd. And the fact that the media supports it is really ugly. You want to see the most dishonest news story I've ever seen, and that's going a long way. Take a look at the New York Times article today about the FISA warrant, warrant for Carter Page, where they just declare in the headline that the Democrats were right all along. The FISA warrant proves that everything Adam Schiff said was true. You've got to go down 12 paragraphs before you find the information that, no, in fact, that warrant, as far as we can read through the redactions, actually supports what Devin Nunes and the Republicans were saying.
Well, all the constructive critiques of Trump that you just detailed notwithstanding, do you get the sense that Trump is winning ugly, that he's sloppy and this thing is messy, but that he is leading the parade of horribles and their pea hats around in public by their pea hats, and this is not serving the Democrats well? It's got even a Democrat cheerleader named Jim Comey openly concerned that Democrats are losing their minds, as you just suggested, and are going to overplay their hand in November.
I don't know what's going to happen in November yet. It's still a long way away. But there's just no question that of the two parties, it's the Democrats who are the radicals. I mean, it's amazing to me that it takes a man like Trump to support typically American points of view, that the people should be free, that taxes should be low, that businesses should be capitalist, while the left is now openly supporting socialism. They have that woman in New York, Ocasio-Cortez, spouting this utter sophomoric nonsense, saying unemployment is low because people have two jobs, which doesn't even make sense mathematically, let alone in terms of the facts. Yeah, I think that they have lost their minds. I mean, they just thought that the Democrat rule was going to go on forever. They thought Hillary Clinton had the presidency in her hands, and they've just absolutely lost the plot of America, as far as I'm concerned. We haven't really taken stock yet of what a failure the Obama administration was, what a radical administration it was, and what a corrupt administration it was. An administration that used the IRS to harass its enemies, that used the State Department to lie about Benghazi, that now, it seems to me, used the Justice Department to spy on an opposition candidate. This was an administration run like a Chicago machine. And because we haven't come to terms with how radical, how failed, and how corrupt it was, we can't quite see that the Democrats, their messiah has been exposed as a failure, and they just are having a very hard time dealing with that. Well, I think we're almost dealing with the detritus of the Obama administration almost as much as we're dealing with the trolling that Trump is so good at.
Well, the flip side of that, too, is that President Obama served a purpose for the radical left that you're describing. He gave sort of a veneer of legitimacy and moderation just in his persona. the way that he presented himself in public, that has been stripped away by President Trump. And so, now you've got, as I said before, this parade of horribles, and President Obama can't kind of get them back in line, no matter how many Life's Little Instruction Book speeches he gives in South Africa.
That is such a good insight. When I talk to my left-wing friends and try to explain to him how we on the right experience Barack Obama, they simply cannot see it. They thought he was a god. They thought he was a great statesman. They thought he was even-handed and fair and American. And to me, he just really didn't look like a guy who liked America very much at all. He wanted to fundamentally transform it, which is not what you say about something you love. And it really is interesting to me that they cannot get past that illusion that they had, that is kind of an election year illusion that this guy is going to save everything, and really assess the facts that he really did divide this country. He divided it in terms of race when those wounds were healing. He divided it in terms of politics. He was very, very far left as he came out. And as you say, he was very presentable. He was very likable. People still like him, even though they rejected all his policies. What's really interesting to me is that the people in this country are so much smarter and more nuanced than the media that I wish that they had more of a voice, because I feel a lot of the division between Americans is really division being spawned by a radical media. And I think that if we could get past the networks, if we could get past the New York Times, which spreads its budget to papers and news organizations around the country, if we could get past those spokesmen for a radical socialist agenda and just talk among ourselves, I think we'd find we agree on a lot more than we disagree on.
He is Andrew Klavan, screenwriter, essayist. You can catch his work at PJ Media and elsewhere. Also, you want to pick up his latest book, The Great Good Thing, A Secular Jew Comes to Faith in Christ. Andrew, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
It's a real pleasure. Thanks.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.